Hello, quick note before we begin. As you can see, this is only a 15-minute podcast. That's because this is for a school project, and that's the time limit. In the future, we'll have much longer episodes. So, thanks for your understanding, and let's get into it. Welcome to Put Your Cards on the Table, the only podcast where we will absolutely not pay the one. Today, we're discussing Wizards of the Coast and their dystopian capitalist Joker arc that they're currently on. And joining me is my good friend Isaac, the Graveyard Garçon. Thank you for coming
Hey,
in. Yeah.
hi. I'm Isaac, and Wizards of the Coast. It has cut me in ways that no blade ever could.
Ain't that the truth? Good lord.
It hurts
Yes.
more when you think they're your friend.
Oh god, didn't we all? I feel like Wizards of the Coast has always had, like, a decent relationship with their fan base and their supporters, so I'm shocked that recently it seems like that's completely fallen apart now.
Yeah, so there's a big part of it that I think gets brought up pretty often, where and this will happen with lots of people, especially in like the gaming community and stuff, because people tend to be very passionate and to the point of even being defensive about like their favorite IPs and stuff and the people behind them, especially with people like Wizards of the Coast, where you have really public facing people like Mark Rosewater and like Gavin Verhey and stuff. These are very like beloved individuals. And so something that you'll hear pretty often is like, oh, well, it's Hasbro's fault. It's not Wizards' fault, which is kind of true. But the thing that you do have to keep in mind is that as far as this kind of decision making goes in reference to like the hyper financial pushing of and marketing of modern Magic the Gathering products and other products as well, is that in this world, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro really are the same entity. And no, like the developers and like creative teams like Mark Rosewater and Gavin Verhey and people like that are not out here, trying to scum all the money out of your wallet. The larger company itself, they are still making all these same decisions. Like they got to be held accountable for at least some of this stuff going on.
Yeah, the people in the company, especially like the faces of the company like you talked about, they may be your friends. The company is not your friend. The company sees you as money. And I think that that's something that's become very, very clear recently, especially in Wizards of the Coast as a whole, with like the whole D&D situation as well. Like,
Mhm.
it's been miserable. I feel like it's almost spitting in the fans' faces at this point. Like the 30th anniversary Magic was just a blatant insult.
Right. So do you want to give like should we give like a quick recap of like the kind of
Yeah.
things that are leading up to the decision making that we're discussing, just to fill in the gaps for anybody listening?
Yeah, probably a good idea. Do we want to start at 30th? Maybe even before
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah. Yeah, I
just
think
product fatigue in general. Sorry,
for
didn't
real.
mean to
Yes.
interrupt you.
Actually, something that oh no, you're tired. Good. Um Something I wanted to bring up is so in the year 2022, and this isn't necessarily like a betrayal of the fan base or anything like that. This is just kind of a big part of like because you brought up product fatigue
Mhm.
in 2022, not counting things like on Arena, how they have like legendary creatures that have like the specialized mechanic where it's like the same creature kind of, but it becomes a
Yeah.
different creature kind of, and then like alchemy cards and stuff like that. So not counting those, so talking only about cards that you can hold in your hand, that you can play in paper, and you can use as a commander for a commander deck. 389
Good
in the year
lord.
2022 came
Good
out.
lord.
Um, if you want to get really dramatic with a comparison, then in the year 2003 there were 16.
God.
Now things were very different in
Yeah,
2003,
yeah.
but that's like a pretty extreme comparison. But even before, you know, I mean, a good comparison is 2020. Let's see if I can get a number here. So essentially, I believe the number that I'm looking at is that 17% of all of the legal commander options of all time came out last year.
That's a ridiculous margin. That's insane.
Yes. And the year before that, it was, I don't have the number, it was in the 200s. And the year before that was kind of before they, because 2021 was, if you recall, they called it the year of Commander. It's when
Mm-hmm.
we had like Commander Legends and stuff like that. And so there was a big boost in that kind of stuff, but there was actually almost 2 times as much Commander stuff going on just with regular products in the next year after the year of Commander. And so that's like a really solid example of product fatigue. But then on top of that, with like the because that product fatigue and the pacing of those release schedules does definitely play into marketing decisions, right? Because I mean, Commander has been the biggest moneymaker for Magic the Gathering for the longest time,
Yeah.
so they started to definitely push those products. You know, we see Commander decks with every standard label set now, and for good reason. And they,
And don't forget as well that the cost of those Commander precons have like almost doubled since they
they've gone
originally
up,
came out. Yeah.
gone up. Yeah, even the like typically less valuable ones that come out with the actual standard
Mm-hmm.
sets are typically more expensive than what the actual precons would have been when they first started doing them. And obviously, there's some inflation involved there, but it is not only inflation.
No, no, for sure. It's a huge part of the community that's definitely Wizards of the Coast is, I think, kind of turned their focus towards. It feels almost like Magic the Gathering is becoming Commander.
It is
Which
absolutely true.
yeah, like I mean, it's good. I love Commander. Don't get me wrong, but I very strongly dislike the idea that a casual format or a format that was originally designed to be casual is being pushed so heavily. And I don't mind CEDH either, but it feels like Wizards of the Coast saw the opportunity and now they're only using that. It feels like other
Right.
formats are kind of being left behind.
It's definitely true. There are a lot of there have been many complaints over the last couple of years of the state of like standard and especially formats like modern and legacy
Yeah, modern.
um being worse and worse. And now I don't really play most constructed formats, so I don't have too much to say from personal experience, and at least I haven't in a long time from recent years, but I've heard many complaints of the ways that they are suffering over the last few years. And I think a big part of that is simply because sets standard sets are balanced around commander rather than
Mm-hmm.
command. And I mean, look at the number of legendary creatures per set.
Yeah.
It's not necessary to those sets that there are so many legendary creatures. There are a couple of times where we've had sets where legends are sort of a theme, but that's an outlier. That's not typically the case.
Perhaps the Legends set? Perhaps?
Indeed, yeah, the legend
Legends
set that
block?
did have a few. Yeah, did have a few. Uh, but yeah, so I mean that product pacing and stuff, it and the fatigue that comes with it is a huge part of the modern kind of business model that Wizards of the Coast is using for their most popular IP. And then you have repeated failures in decision making, like things like the 30th anniversary stuff, where
Mhm.
they took a huge swing with the way that they were talking about it, talking about how it was a big celebration of the game and the community, and then decided that it would be a product that was not only not useful or even exciting to most people in a collector's sense, but was wildly overpriced to the point of $999 to buy. How much was it? You got 3 packs for that, I think.
Yeah, three packs of 15 cards, I think, with no guaranteed
Yeah.
pulls, no
Yep.
promotionals, like stuff, nothing. It's a spit in the it's a slap in the
Right.
face to a community that's made to play games together, whether that's for fun or for competition, and it is incredibly the 30th anniversary was incredibly exclusive, overpriced, and at the end of the day, useless. You couldn't play
Mhm.
with those cards. Like I have no idea who greenlit that. And then they sent promotional packs of the
Right.
product to already rich people, not even Magic the Gathering like YouTubers or anything. It was to actual
Yeah.
celebrities. What a horrible marketing
Yeah, there's
strategy.
like a professional baseball player, I believe, that
Yeah.
received one of them. Um, yeah, and so that's obviously a huge part of it. But then you even start to see not only the pacing of products and then the price of outlier things like the 30th anniversary, but even the regular price of other products that are kind of being machine gunned out the wizard's barrel at us. I mean, look at how many secret layers come out a
Oh my
year now,
god.
and the price of those. And a more recent example, because we're in the middle of the kind of preview season for the upcoming, very exciting. Uh,
March of the Machines?
not only March of the Machines, but the Middle Earth set
Oh, yes.
for Magic the Gathering. And so if you had been following the some of the like pre-purchasing options and stuff online when they started announcing that stuff, so the typical price of like a collector pack bundle for most products is going to be in like the 150 to 250, maybe $300 range
Hmm.
to get those booster boxes. In order to get the same product for the Middle Earth set, almost $500, right? So we found that out before we ever saw any of the cards, and now we have found out that they are doing this sort of, has
Willy
often been
Wonka?
compared, the Willy Wonka golden ticket thing. So I can't say that it smells too good to
No.
look at a product and have them go, so this product costs twice as much as most products. Also, you as a person who wants X, Y, or Z thing from this set that we have created to be finite must buy more of this product in order to have the opportunity to acquire these things when it is already more expensive.
Hmm. I want to clarify, they manufacture pieces of cardboard. These are pieces of card.
Exactly.
There is no reason that it costs $500 for 120 pieces of cardboard, or
Right.
150. Like, good lord.
For context, the Willy Wonka's golden ticket that we are discussing is in the Brothers War set. They started doing this thing called serialized cards, where there would be special promotional versions of cards that there was a particular number of them in circulation. It would have like a serial number on it, says which one you have. They're doing that again with this set. Honestly, some very cool ideas. And if they had never made any of these huge swings and misses in the past few years, then I think this could definitely be cool. So there's one special promotional serialized version of a card called the One Ring. Conceptually makes a lot of sense. In the grander scheme of things, feels pretty horrible, I think.
Hmm. Hmm.
To me anyway. Um, I really don't like the smell of that.
No. I think, like, collectors wise, like you mentioned, I think it's a cool idea overall to have like the serialized cards, because it adds a layer of scarcity to this game, right? But on the whole, like, just playing the game should not be that expensive.
Exactly.
If you want to collect cards, pay for alternate treatments, pay for this secret layers, but only the magic ones. Don't give me another Walking Dead where the cards still haven't been reprinted 3 years
Right.
later. Like, what the hell? But it gives you something to collect. But then if you want to just play the game at your kitchen table with some friends, it shouldn't cost you $400 for a deck, right?
Yeah,
Like, good
I can't
lord.
feel good about spending money on this hobby anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
Not only because I don't even feel about what I'm supporting. I don't know how I feel about that, but I can't afford it half the
Yeah,
time.
it's
I mean,
too expensive.
when I started playing Magic, I was like 14 and I did not have a job or a disposable
Mhm.
income. It was it I'm being a little dramatic here because I could definitely these days like build decks with very on a very strict budget. Budget building is a whole thing. There's whole communities around it and stuff. But obviously, restriction breeds creativity and all that.
Yes.
But it certainly feels like when I was a teenager and I did not have a disposable income, it still felt easier to get cards and to get the cards that I want to make the deck that I want than it does now when I do have disposable income. Simply because, like, not only has the price point gone up, but there are so many more cards and so many cards of a higher power that it feels almost mandatory to play them.
Yeah, and purchase that price to play,
Right,
literally.
exactly. And, discussions of power creep aside, when you look at things like, for example, 389 playable commanders in 1 year compared to numbers under 100 in most quote unquote modern years of Magic the Gathering for the last many years, even if power creep isn't a problem, which it is, but that's kind of a whole other can of worms. You are definitely creeping on your design space at that point. You are quickly depleting the gold mine of good ideas for cards that you have.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that could be a whole video on its own, and unfortunately, we've already reached our 15-minute time limit. This is a really restrictive time limit
Yeah.
for our first podcast, and I apologize for that, but we will have to wrap it up real quick here. and I would love to have you on perhaps next week for another episode, maybe like an hour-long one this time.
I could boogie down.
That would be fantastic, but for now, we will have to bid everyone farewell.
Adieu.
And thank you all so much for listening, and as always, we'll see you soon.